Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on May 13th, 2026 in the Council Chambers at the Municipal Administration Centre. Roll call this evening, Deputy Mayor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Present.
Councillor Prenger. Councillor Steinhoff-Gray.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Williams.
Present.
Deputy Mayor, please.
We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis.
Do any council members have any amendments, additions, or deletions to or from the agenda this evening? And once again, I'd remind you to disclose any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof, either now or as it arises in the meeting. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I need to declare on 6.1A as well as 6.1. We'll scroll down here. I. Because of my contract employment with Bruce Power as a client, as well as my husband's employment with Bruce Power.
Councillor Williams, please.
I will also declare on 6.1A and 6.1I due to my husband's employment at Bruce Power and my employment at the Nuclear Innovation Institute.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray.
I will also be declaring for the same items as my peers based on my employment at Bruce Power.
Councillor Prengert.
I'd like to declare an indirect pecuniary interest on item 6.1 alpha and 6.1 indigo due to my employment at the NII.
And I would like to declare on nothing related to those. Actually, it's 7.4C, repair and maintenance of municipal drains bylaw, as my daughter is one of the landowners involved in that work. Invoices. Okay, the adoption of minutes from regular and special council meetings. I'd like need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held April 22, 2026 be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor Blackwell and Kavanagh. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we've got lots of public participation this evening, and I'm going to wander down there, and I'm going to ask our Recreation Director, Emery Thompson, to assist in this. Hey ho, there we go. All right, our first presentation this evening is to Tegan Fruke, who's a member of the Kincardine Skating Club and competed in the 2026 Skate Ontario Star Skate Provincial Series. And throughout the season, Tegan participated in 4 qualifying events and finished ranked 7th overall in the Star 6 long program category. Tegan, amongst other things, delivered a clean program and achieved a personal best score, improving her previous best by a couple of points, and captured the Star 6 provincial title. She also competed in the Star 7 short program and Star 7 artistic events, where she met her goal of finishing in the top half of those categories, and she's working towards completing her final 2 Gold Skate Canada tests, as well as her coaching certificates, which is awesome. And looking ahead to next season, Tegan plans to move up to the Star 8 category and aims to qualify once again for the provincial championships. And how many star programs are there? What do you get to? All right, you're 70% of the way there. Well done. So come on over here, Tegan, and we will present the this plaque. And sure, please. Thank you for bringing it. There we go. Thanks very much, Tegan. Congratulations. I have a longer list this time. So this evening, we're going to celebrate the Kincardine Canucks U15B girls make the girls hockey team as they made history with their dominant 2026 season. And of course, seasons like this are hard to forget because you'll be remembered by your sisters and brothers and your families and your parents and everybody. Remember that year we did, I had a daughter and she played in a team with Maggie, and they were fabulous, and they have never forgotten, and there are teams up on the Wall of Fame in the arena as well. So this team finished with an outstanding 46 wins, 8 losses, and 13 ties. They had a dominating season. And they didn't just win, they stacked up titles, capturing 3 of the most prestigious honors: the 2026 U15B International Women's Silver Stick Champions, the U15B, I think it's Western Ontario Girls Hockey League, Day of Champions, and the U15B Ontario Women's Hockey Association Provincial Champions. Obviously, they're playing against top-tier competition, and they proved their ability to perform under pressure. And certainly, we want to acknowledge their success. And is there a plaque for each one of them, or do they have their? Do they have? Okay.
We have an assigned photographer.
We have an assigned photographer. Okay, so you do the calling, and I'll
Yeah,
do
you
the
do the shaking.
handshaking. Right on.
All right. Rayanne McKegg. Awesome. Harlow Stevenson. Maya Gracie. Paige Angelic. Kendall Pollock. Clara Olson. Kelsey Thompson. Sophie Wise. Layla Zadunich. Ashley Greco. Ava Doucette.
So this is the young player that gives her parents nightmares. If one. Do you use Rolaids or different sort of tongues? Have to be small, right on. Oh, very good.
Ray Pym.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Mila Edwards.
Congratulations, Mila.
Whitney Gagan.
So Whitney is the captain of the team, and it is under your leadership and your guidance and your modeling, your demonstrating what it takes to be a leader is well appreciated by not only your team, but us, because we know this town is full of young leaders. So congratulations.
And we also want to recognize the coaching staff that support this team. So head coach Kent Pollock.
Hey, Ken, congratulations.
Assistant coach Chris Pym.
Congratulations, Chris, very much.
And assistant coach Mark Olson.
Where'd you go for international silver stick this year? Sarnia. Sarnia? Congratulations.
Trainer Nicole Angelic.
Fix any bones this year?
And trainer Stacy Gagan. We've got a trainer not with us this evening, but we'd like to show our appreciation for Janelle Smeltzer. And last but not least, the guy that pulls it all together, the team manager, Steve Angelic.
The man behind the scenes. Right on. Well done. Yeah, congratulations. And we'd like to acknowledge the rest of the parents that have come to support family. You've done it all year in the rinks and on the roads, and you're doing it here tonight. And we are pleased and proud to have you as part of our recreation system. We are delighted that you're here tonight. So the rest of the meeting is long and boring, so it's just going to be like 2 minutes, and everybody get the heck out of here and go have some pizza. Go have some pizza. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Chad Richards here tonight as well to provide an update to Council on the 2025 overview and Bruce C. project progress. We did receive an update at the ad hoc nuclear committee the other day, and Chad is here to deliver pretty much the same thing. So with your concurrence, it's more than 5 minutes. So we're not going to give you half an hour, but it's more than 5 minutes, okay?
That sounds good. Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. When I got here today, I was really excited. I thought everybody was here for a delegation from Bruce Power, and we had just a great audience for that. But really remarkable what youth in the community are achieving, and thanks to you yourself and council for making time to recognize that. I will try to be as brief as possible and really get to answering any questions that council may have about the 2025 overview and Bruce C project progress that we wanted to work through here today. Really, the intent is to give you a look back at what was achieved in 2025 and a bit of a look ahead into what we're working on and what we've already achieved in 2026, as well as where we're going with the Bruce C project. Echoing Deputy Mayor Hinchberger, we do want to acknowledge that the Bruce Power site is situated on the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation territory, the shared treaty and traditional territory of the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation. And through all the work we do at Bruce Power, we have we're dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and reconciliation with all the communities we work with, which includes the San as well as the Métis Nation of Ontario Region 7 and the historic Saugeen Métis. Back about almost a year ago, the Government of Ontario released the Integrated Energy Plan. So really an overarching look at where the system is headed here in Ontario. And unsurprisingly, the Bruce Power site is really acknowledged all throughout that document as a key asset for the province. And at Bruce Power, we have 5 guiding principles that sort of act on how we're outlined in that document. The first being to continue to focus on extending the operation of our eight units at the site and continuing our major component replacement program to really extend the life of the plant through 2064 and beyond. Continuing through that life extension program is our focus on Project 2030, which includes investments in our assets to increase our net peak output of the site, but up to 7,000 megawatts by the year 2030. And then in addition to that, what we'll get into quite a bit today is pursuing an impact assessment as a planning tool to look at the Bruce C project and really using the federal integrated process as a way to map out what needs to be done and what's possible on our site, with the ability to add up to 4,800 megawatts of new nuclear on that site. And similarly, as that process unfolds, undertake a technology review to ensure that we're selecting, if we do move forward with the Bruce C project, the best technology that works for our site and that works for the province and the federal government moving forward with new nuclear. And through all of that, positioning regional economic development, partnerships, localization of the supply chain, and really new opportunities for the communities that surround the site as an essential through line through it all. Today, I want to focus on a few things. Again, looking back on 2025 and looking ahead, we'll focus on regional leadership and community support, our operations and refurbishment programs, a little bit about isotopes, a lot about Bruce C, and a little bit about collective advocacy towards the end. Just the kickoff to today's meeting is really a perfect opportunity to segue into this. Bruce Power takes very seriously the role that it plays in our communities, and our community investment fund and our environment and sustainability fund are ways that we invest in community assets. We know that supportive infrastructure doesn't just mean warehouses and roads into the site. It means resilient and thriving communities, and that's really the focus of what we do through our community sponsorship and our funding into community initiatives. And this is just a short list of some of the things through 2025 that the company has supported. Move on to the next slide. We're really excited that our bus tour program is back up and running, and I think one of the best ways for people to support or to understand how the site works, and one of the ways we build support for nuclear is really to get people onto the site. Our bus tour was incredibly popular through 2025. We had over 6,300 guests joined a tour. We welcomed 41 different school groups. So on that theme of youth engagement that we've seen here tonight, we've welcomed lots of school groups into our visitor center, and we have about 20,000 annual visitors to the visitor center. And I will put a plug in for the bus tour program. It's now launched again for June and into the summer months. So in June it'll run Monday to Friday, and in July and August 7 days a week. I've got some family coming up in towards the start of July, and they're already booked on a bus tour, whether they like it or not. So I'm sure they'll appreciate that in their visit to the region. But definitely encourage you to use the site in that way, and welcome any guests that you have to the site. On operations and refurbishments, you'll hear us talk a lot about how Bruce Power provides about 30% of Ontario's electricity. In 2025, those down just slightly to about 24%, as we had units 3 and 4 down for major component replacement work. Unit 3 is set to complete its MCR later this year. It'll return to service here in 2026 in a few months. Less than that. And Unit 4 MCR began a three-year outage beginning in February of 2025, and our MCR program continues to move along on time and on budget, which is great news for the sector. Next slide, please. I'll move quickly through this one. It's more some slides in the deck are meant to serve as just a briefing material for council. This gives a bit of a snapshot of where we're going with the MCR program, and as well as layering on what the exploration of new build at the site looks like. So I'll just move through that one. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on our Canadian at our Core campaign. It's really critical. You'll see it in a lot of our communications that we're talking about, and really acting upon here in the geopolitical moment that we're in. So we've really put a targeted effort in how we're spending our money and being deliberate about spending that money here in Canada, given the geopolitical moment that we're in. So 95 cents on every dollar that we spend is staying here in Canada and supporting strong supply chain partnerships that are local and providing impact here on the ground. In addition to that, as part of our campaign, we're moving reconciliation through action, and you see that in the way that we're working with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation through partnerships like the Gemzuku-Minakazawin partnership, which just had a really great announcement here earlier this year about accessing an Indigenous loan guarantee program to further that investment in our isotopes ventures. And our Isotopes for Hope campaign is really similarly Canadian at its core in terms of meeting the Canadian Nuclear Isotopes Council's goal of doubling isotope production here in Canada by the year 2030. The next slide, please. And then on isotopes, we've had a number of highlights through 2025, including the development of the Nuclear Isotope Innovation Council of Ontario, NICO, which is chaired by our COO, James Sconiak, and providing recommendations to the government on meeting that ambition of doubling isotope production by the year 2050. We saw good progress on our isotope production system expansion and celebrated that expansion on Unit 6 with the Federal Minister of Natural Resources, Minister Hodgson, coming to site. And we continued to progress work on our hot cell, which will be a tremendous asset for isotopes processing here in the region on our site. All right, so into the kind of the meat and potatoes, and Sherry outlined that we've been working. I worked quite a bit with Sherry when I got here today. It was like, oh, you again. So I work very closely with the Nuclear Ad Hoc Advisory Committee as well too. I'm appearing almost on a monthly basis to provide updates. But really, what we wanted to do is just kind of set the stage on where things are going with Bruce C, where things are at, and how we're working together through this next phase of the process. And so we'll kind of take a bit of a step back in terms of the impact assessment process in general, and where Bruce C is at and where we've been through that process. Bruce Power entered the impact assessment formally with the submission of our initial project description in August 2024, and we completed the planning phase, which is a lot of the early preparation work that responds to some components in the IPD and comments that the Impact Assessment Agency has on that IPD. We completed that phase in August 2025 with the receipt of what's called our Integrated Tailored Impact Statement Guidelines. They're a full list of all of the components of the project that IAC believes that we must measure throughout this process. IAC and CNSC, I should say. It's an integrated process. The TISGs are available online. If you want to understand what it is we're assessing through the Bruce C project, you can go and access the TISGs. It's a very long document, but if you do access and you have any questions, feel free to contact me. It is quite extensive, and we'll get into some of the components that we're measuring through this process. We are now, as I mentioned, in the impact statement phase, and we'll move to the next slide here. And the impact statement phase is effectively the phase of this process that is quite proponent heavy. It's incumbent on the proponent to take those TISGs and report back through the development of what's called an impact statement. It's very cleverly named. The impact statement phase means that we're developing the impact statement. And the impact statement will look at addressing all of those measures outlined in the TISGs, and it includes work like documenting existing conditions. So if you want to measure the effect of something, you also need to outline the current state that you're measuring against. So we've done a lot of work to document the existing conditions when it comes to everything from some of our biophysical assessments through to socioeconomic conditions as they exist here today, so that we have a baseline against which we can measure the effects of the project. Through this phase of the work, we include Indigenous knowledge and community knowledge where we can and where provided, and we've worked quite extensively with the municipal coordinators, including Sherry and as well as the Nuclear Ad Hoc Advisory Committee and coordinators in Saugeen Shores and Bruce County, as well as providing opportunities for the public to engage in this process too, which we'll talk a bit more about. Once we've established those baseline conditions, we'll assess the potential positive and negative effects of the project, and some of that work has already started to begun as we prepare the impact statement. In addition to that, we don't just say, oh, there's a negative effect. We must also, through this process, outline ways that we will mitigate those negative effects and enhance potential beneficial effects of the project. All by way of understanding like the cumulative impacts of the project on the region and continuing engagement with communities throughout the entire process. Next slide, please. So what's happening now in terms of meeting what we just outlined in the impact statement? We put a heavy emphasis in this process on engagement, and I do want to give Sherry Leslie a lot of credit here. We found Sherry to be a tremendous asset in terms of being a liaison into the municipality, understanding there's a lot of very technical work that goes on and a lot of insight that we need to gather from municipalities, and Sherry's been a tremendous resource for us to feed not only information in, but also to get information back out from the municipal perspective on a number of our components. We're continuing to collect socioeconomic, cultural, archaeological, and environmental data to supplement baseline conditions, and we're starting to undertake effects assessments and beginning drafting sections of the actual impact statement. Next slide, please. And some of that early impact statement development, at least right now, is already underway in terms of the development of the draft section 1, which is our introduction, draft section 2, our proponent information, draft section 3, our project description, as well as draft section 4, which is our purpose, needs, and alternatives considered for the project. Really, this first batch of it's called a batch 2 submission. It's meant to be an early submission into the regulator so that they can see some of the elements of the project and where things are going. So we're preparing those sections, and we'll have sections out for external review, which we regularly send sections through Sherry and the municipal coordinators to take a look at and verify any of the elements of the statements, any elements of the statement that apply to the municipality. Next slide, please. I did want to talk a little bit about our fieldwork programs. There are a number of different fieldwork programs, and we provide regular updates to external partners on these fieldwork programs. I won't go through each of them in full detail, mostly because our environmental team knows the details of them, and I'm not the right person to talk to you about some of these. I will say though, through engagement, I think we've seen really a tremendous benefit in working very closely with the Nuclear Ad Hoc Advisory Committee. I'll give give a shout out to Councillor Stewart. He was actually quite open to having a noise receptor put on his property, and I appreciate his willingness to engage in that process and ensure that that we can carry out our noise monitoring programs in an effective way. And I really want to I think through engagement, it's one of the ways that we can demonstrate we're working together, and we're all working together on this project. Next slide, please. Did want to spend a little bit of time on where the community's at with respect to the Bruce C project. We did some polling in late 2025 that was focused on residents here in the region of Bruce Grey and Huron counties. So it was targeted geographically to the regional study area. We found that there's 86% support for the Bruce C project continuing in this process. From among those who support the project, the top two reasons for supporting the project were meeting increased energy demand and the associated economic benefits that could come with the project moving forward. 96% agreed that the project will create jobs and employment for local residents, and 90% of those that we polled understood that our site presents a strategic advantage or has strategic advantages over other sites here in the province. Next slide, please. I won't go through all of the numbers in detail, but just wanted to highlight that we did work with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and the Nuclear Innovation Institute to conduct an early economic impact analysis of the Bruce C project. This is one of our TISG requirements, is to assess the economic effects of the project, and we wanted to do this work early because I think it's important to emphasize, how significant the project is in terms of its potential national benefits, but as well as highlight some of those localized benefits as well, and those localized economic benefits that we can see. And job creation is one of our top asked questions when it comes to public engagement as well. So next slide, please. Moving forward, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to collectively advocate. I think there are a number of ways in which Bruce Power is working with the municipality of Kincardine on collective advocacy, and I do think we're seeing the benefits of speaking with one voice as a region here to upper levels of government, and really working together to ensure that needs are addressed, and that there's an opportunity for the municipality to participate meaningfully in assessing these projects of provincial and national interest. So I just encourage council and encourage staff to continue to engage in the forums that we do, and even look to expand that collective advocacy together. I think the more that we work together, the better. Next, and I believe final slide. Yeah, perfect. I just wanted to close with, I mentioned public engagement earlier. We do have an upcoming information session in Kincardine on May 19th at the Beach Pavilion from 4 to 6 p.m. We're going to open our doors to open those doors to the public and have a lot of our technical SMEs available to answer questions about different things like field work, about these super technical and complicated topics like valued components and alternative means, which Sherry will know all too well, and really offer an opportunity for the public to provide feedback into the process that we're undertaking here through the Bruce C project. Wanted to close with a sentiment of, I'm wearing my what's called my Under One Roof pin here. I wear this lapel pin a lot. It's made from the roof of Parliament. They harvest old copper off the roof and turn it into lapel pins, and it's meant to symbolize working together. While we may have disagreements here and there throughout the day, at the end of the day we're all under one roof, and I think the more that we can operate under one roof here on the Bruce C project, as we've been doing, the better, and the region's better served for it. So thanks so much for your time.
Chad, thank you so much, and I'd be remiss not to acknowledge Maggie Tiemans, who's here as well, supporting the Bruce C project in regards to the liaison with the municipality. So thank you for both of your work. Questions from council? Comment? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Chad, it's even better a second time. Well done. Just a one question, I've been hearing and reading a lot. Do you think that the MCR and the Bruce C is going to overlap, like the construction of Bruce C? Because the MCR is supposed to be wrapped up about 2032. People have been asking me, do you see an overlap there by a year or two?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a great question. It's a question we get a lot. Right now, in terms of the timeline for the Bruce C project, we have our impact assessment and land license to prepare site application going until early 2028. assuming that we would begin site preparation work as soon as we receive that license. There could be an overlap of site preparation work and MCR, but that would be about the extent. Yeah.
Anything further? Chad, Maggie, thanks so much for being here, providing that update for us in the community. We do appreciate it. Okay, we move on to establishment of a new recreation reserve fund, and we need, oh, how about we do the other one first? Yeah. Well, they were talking about Bruce C, so community readiness funding agreement. We need a mover and seconder that council direct the mayor and clerk to execute the municipal capacity funding agreement for the regional infrastructure and community readiness assessment for the Bruce C project. And further, the council endorse the 2026-2027 work plan for the Bruce C capacity funding and direct staff to submit the work plan to Bruce Power for final endorsement. Moved by councillors Deputy Mayor Hinchberger and Councillor Stewart. Any
Our committee, except we have a new deputy.
any discussion about this? All in favor? It's carried. Thanks. Well done. They can come back in again. We're done. Yep. Okay, moving on, the establishment of a new recreation reserve fund. We need a mover and seconder that council directs staff to draft a bylaw to establish a new recreation redevelopment reserve fund for council's consideration at a future meeting. And further, that once the new recreation redevelopment reserve fund is established, that 150,000 in investment earning from the Bruce Telecom Legacy Fund be transferred into the newly created Recreation Renovation Reserve Fund per Resolution 1210-2519. And balances remaining in the existing discretionary recreation reserve funds, historical recreation reserve funds, as outlined in Report Financial Services 2026-10, be transferred to the newly created Recreation Renovation Reserve Fund. And the original bylaws that establish the historical existing discretionary recreation reserve funds be repealed. Moved by Councillors Stewart and Brenger. Director would comment before questions?
Yeah, through you. So it's the report is self-explanatory as to why we're here with this recommendation. There's a list of all of the reserve funds that staff felt were suitable for use for a new, or for transferring to a new recreation reserve fund. And so depending on council's decision, staff can pull out some of these, or we can include all of them, but it's up to council to decide what they want to include in this new reserve fund.
Question, comment? Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through your chair. I like the idea with one exception. I'm really hesitant about putting Whitney Crawford reserve funds into a general reserve fund. I don't know how necessarily to handle that, whether there's a sub-ledger in there, because I don't know the complete history about how those funds were raised, but they are substantial. There is some sensitivities that I think need to be recognized, Ward 2, Ward 3 versus the town of Kincardine, and I think that whatever steps we can do in order to head off any sort of issues, I think we should take.
Just as a note from the Ad Hoc Recreation Committee, we were addressing the needs of both the Tiverton Sports Centre and the Davidson Centre both at the same time. So I appreciate the acknowledgement, and if there's the ability to put them in the same fund with a little red flag or something beside them, that this is where they go. I'm not sure how the director can afford clarification on that, or whether it's just easier to withdraw it and leave those two separate.
Yeah, through you, I think if council wanted to leave the Whitney Crawford fund separate, then they could just leave them in that fund. Otherwise, we would be transferring them, and we could do what Councillor Hinchberger said, to earmark them specifically for the Whitney Crawford. We could do either, but if council's desire is to leave them for the Whitney Crawford specifically, then I would suggest to leave that one as is.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just want to make sure that, I know we have two key projects identified. We also need to have some latitude to bring a new project in because, just having it on those two topics. So I don't know how we do it, or we have an understanding that there could be another project brought in because you have the Inverhuron and you talked about the earmark for Pavilion and everything. So as long as we have that understanding, I can support this.
Councillor Stanoff Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. The one thing that I am concerned about, similar to Councillor Hinchberger, is that if something happens and derails our efforts for the spend and they're lumped together, you lose track as time goes on, and I don't think that's something that we want to do, especially when there's been a certain amount of effort into donations that go into some of those funds. So, like from my perspective, we do fundraising as a community all the time. So if we start doing fundraising to support recreational activities, you don't want to lose the continuity of path in the funding. So it's not that I'm necessarily against it, but there's a certain amount of discomfort.
Corporate memory, absolutely. Councillor Prenger, Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I totally understand the concept behind this in principle, but I also share concerns about, similar to Councillor Hinchberger's, and Councillor Steinhoff Gray's, where the funds were coming from originally in those separate ones, and how intentional it was that they were specific for those things and where that money came from. So until I fully understood that, I don't know how comfortable I am just amalgamating it together like has been just same concerns described by my fellow councillors.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you, through you. So part of, I think when we brought this motion forward, it was related to the work that was ongoing with the Recreation Ad Hoc Committee. And unfortunately, we haven't got to the point where that's before council. And so I wonder whether it would be beneficial to bring this back for conversation once we've seen those plans, so that we could potentially discuss which of the reserve funds might connect to each of the plans, and do something that way instead of just connect them into one big pot right now.
Did I just hear you make a motion to defer this item for a future date?
Sure. Does that impact the work plan of the director?
No, through you, I was just going to make a suggestion that you could still proceed in establishing a reserve fund if you wanted to, and transfer even the $150,000 from the Bruce Telecom interest income if you wanted to just start it, and then worry about consolidating the other ones later and bring that back. But it's up to council to decide. We can just defer the whole thing. It doesn't matter.
The work of the Recreation Ad Hoc Committee and the CAO has informed me just here that the architect for the redevelopment projects is coming to council on the 10th of June. So what I heard the director say is pretty smart, because we start the reserve, we establish the reserve, and the only thing we populate it with is the $150,000 contribution from the investment from the Bruce Telecom thing, and just leave the others where they sit until we hear some more of the conversation and a recommendation from the ad hoc committee. So perhaps we, if I might put words in your mouth, we defer this motion to the June 24th meeting at least. We establish the reserve fund, we populate it with that, and we don't go any farther than that. And any further discussion will come back in a future report, and we don't have to defer it to a particular date. So, which would be in effect taking out the last two bullets. Yeah. That's all we're doing, is just removing the last two bullets. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, just to clarify, the 259 on the Whitney Crawford Fund, I was on the committee last term, and the fund was no fundraising at all. This was a fund we set aside to look for engineering, because we had to bring this up to a certain level of engineering drawings. Could we go for grants? Unfortunately, we didn't make the grants, but when we decided to go ahead with a $9 million project, it wasn't approved by the council last term. So just wanted to tell you, there's no fundraising, so this is all sort of our funding that we put in. Thank you.
So I'm wondering, through the clerk here, Is it a friendly amendment just to remove the last two bullets, or is that a significant change in the intent of the motion itself?
I would actually rather see somebody move and second that you remove those, just so that they're kept. A friendly amendment, you just remove them,
Okay.
and you want to keep them so that people understand that they're coming forward at a future date.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Can I make a motion to defer the last two items within that initial motion, please? And at a future date. I won't specify a date at this point, after the presentation from the architect.
I'm sorry, procedurally, do you need a seconder for a deferral? Seconder? Councillor Prenger? All in favor of deferring those second two bullets? So we're addressing the remainder of that motion in that we establish the new Recreation Redevelopment Reserve Fund with an initial investment earnings of $150,000 from the Bruce Telecom Legacy Fund be transferred into that fund. Further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Municipal Procurement and Buy Ontario Act. We need a mover and seconder that council receive this report for information regarding the implications of the Buy Ontario Act, public sector procurement, and the associated impacts on the municipality's procurement practices. And further, that staff be directed to report back on required updates to procurement policy finance 08 and associated resource requirements arising from the municipal Buy Ontario Procurement Directive, moved by councillors Kavanagh and Williams, because she's an enthusiastic procurement expert. You want to tell us what we're agreeing to here, Director, please?
So through you, this report provides an overview of the Buy Ontario Act and Procurement Directive and the impacts on how we have to procure fleet and deliver capital projects. The legislation represents a significant shift in procurement, which moves us from primarily price and value-based approach to one that requires the municipality to prioritize Ontario and Canadian-made goods and services. These requirements are already in place for fleet, and they are coming into effect for capital infrastructure on May 15th, which is this Friday. So in practical terms, for fleet purchases, if an Ontario-made vehicle is available and operationally feasible, the municipality is required to select that option, even if it's not the lowest cost. And for capital projects, we are now required to incorporate domestic content considerations into our processes and require bidders to submit domestic supply chain plans. There is limited flexibility, but only in specific cases, such as where costs increase significantly and are appropriately documented, can you have an exemption. These changes are expected to have several impacts, including potential cost increases, longer procurement timelines, reduced competition in some specialized markets, and increased administrative requirements. And there are also associated risks related to compliance, potential procurement challenges, and alignment with trade agreements. So staff have already engaged procurement legal counsel, and we will be updating not necessarily the bylaw itself, but the procedural documents and the templates that go along with it. And we will also be working on providing internal guidance and checklists and training for staff and reviewing upcoming projects for impacts. So we will report back to council if there's policy changes. At this time, it doesn't look to be that we need policy changes, but there will definitely be procedural changes on our end.
So this, we're just receiving it for information, and as the policy changes need to be addressed, staff will bring them back for further conversation. Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just one question. I know that when there's an exceptional case, so the exception, not the rule, obviously, is there a threshold for percentage over that embarks upon that option to exercise a different choice?
Yeah, so through you, it's 25%, but you have to, staff really has to verify that the cost would increase by 25%, and all of that has to go through a documentation process and an approval process. So it is quite cumbersome, and it's not meant to be just an exemption that could easily be provided. So yes, there is an exemption requirement, though.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I have two questions, and I apologize because I didn't ask them in advance, and I hate putting people on the spot. So if you don't have answers, that's totally acceptable. First is we're now required to verify bids that come in under procurement that they're accurate in terms of their Canadian content, or is it their responsibility to be accurate?
So through you, that's a good question. And we do not have, staff does not have to verify it. We're relying on the bidders to provide an attestation. And so they will complete the supply chain forms and document exactly what their content is, and we would accept that.
Sorry, and thank you. And just a quick follow-up. I don't think that you'll have this off the top of your head, but do we have any sense of what our current supply chain is in terms of Canadian content? Like, is this going to be a significant shift from where we're at now? Or might it only kind of be around the edges?
So through you, that's difficult to answer just because we have never asked those questions before about what the content is in terms of Ontario versus Canadian. So I don't know at this time.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I won't be so generous, and through you, Chair. This is an offense, as far as I'm concerned. This is mandatory by the provincial government, once again demanding us to buy Canadian. They don't really understand. This impact could be huge on our taxpayers. And I know that AMO actually submitted, but it didn't seem like they actually accepted any of their recommendations. I'm thinking that we personally, as a council, need to write a letter to our local MPP saying that we just don't understand this. We don't want this. This is having an impact on taxpayers, and I don't think the benefit's really there. So, you know, I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but this could really cause us a lot of problems and a lot of cost. And once again, the government's forcing our taxpayers to pay something that really, I mean, look at the fire truck. There's no company that builds fire trucks in Canada, you know, so, you know, but this is just going to add more and more costs when you have all these municipalities always trying to buy Canadian in Ontario. You know, you're going to increase the cost. So I think that, you know, Lisa Thompson needs to come and talk to us, or we need to send a letter in protest and say, we're not supporting this.
Could you bring a notice of motion to council next time? Next time is plenty soon.
I'll bring a notice of motion.
Councillor Steinhoff-Gray, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I have one final question, and I think actually if we are sending a letter, some of the data points you can put together. I'm curious what the impact is to staff. This sounds a lot more cumbersome than our normal process. There's a lot more rigor and quality checks. So is there going to be an impact from a staffing perspective on this change?
So through you, I believe so. Definitely, because we don't have a specialized procurement function, it is a little bit more cumbersome for multiple roles because all of the departments are responsible for initiating their own procurements in consultation with the Treasury staff and the finance staff, which is primarily myself and the Deputy Treasurer. So we are trying to make the process as streamlined and as simple as possible, and so are the majority of other municipalities, especially smaller municipalities that don't have these resources. So that's why we're all working collaboratively with other towns to try to simplify this as best we can.
So just a quick aside, we had in the maybe last two budgets this idea floating around of a procurement department, singular for the whole municipality, and what you're talking about might, you know, encourage us to look at that direction again, not because we want to, but because you have to. Anything about the motion? I wandered off a bit here myself, so. Oh, okay, well, I wandered too far already, so. Go ahead, Councillor Steinhoff-Gray.
Thank you. I just think it's something we should be revisiting once the staff, like our finance, understands the impacts. I think there's more than just financial impacts here. I think there's a time basis for our staff impact here. And the other thing I would just say that we consider all options, obviously, when it comes back, but I threw out there the fact that sometimes we do county roll-ups too, and if there's a partnership mechanism to get here too, like we won't know till they provide us an assessment on what that impact is, but I do believe there is an impact, so I wanted to ask the question.
So we do have the motion before us that we received. Oh, Councillor Prenger, how about you go ahead?
You go first.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I was just thinking along that vein when Councillor Stewart suggested we, as council, send a letter to Lisa Thompson. my first thought was perhaps we should have some data to include in that letter as a basis for our position rather than a feeling that something's going to happen. So perhaps our director could keep that in mind and maybe try to document some of the impacts as that Councillor Steinhoff-Gray was asking about that, so we could use that in terms of if we choose as a council to yes vote on sending that letter, we have that to back us up in our position.
Okay, so those are good suggestions, and I think subsequent to this motion that somehow or other we need to offer staff the opportunity to give us the information about how they are going to go about collecting it, like even the start of that, because you don't know, you know what you're legislated to do, but you really don't know how it's going to happen. So I want to afford staff the opportunity to develop the metrics that they're going to use. Like, we believe that this is the way we understand how this is impacting us, whether it's hours or dollars or what is it. So there's two things. I want to pass the motion, but also how do we direct staff, CAO, to start thinking about how do we assess and evaluate and respond to the change in the work application? What does that look like? I'm sorry, we really wandered off. Clerk, you just go for a coffee, clerk, and sure, we can do the motion. All in favor of receiving the report and having the staff be directed to report back on required updates to the procurement policy. So all in favor of that? Do we have a choice? No. Do you want to respond to that? How does staff address that transfer of information from them to us about what they need to do their job as legislated now?
Well, I think as Roxana has indicated, we're going to need to go through a little more of the procurement cycle to actually see what this is going to be like, how our vendors respond to the requests. I think all municipalities have worked hard to ensure that we get good solid bids in when we put an opportunity out, and things like this that add extra burden. One of my concerns is that smaller businesses, local businesses who might otherwise be willing to try and work with us will find that this is just one more piece of administration that makes it difficult for them to bid. So then you get, this kind of consolidation where, you're only seeing bids from a very few, very large firms. On the good side, I think there's a municipal procurement group that will be, as Roxana said, working together to try and find solutions and templates and processes that they'll share as a group. And again, there are procurement softwares. We don't have those here, but it may be that an investment in a system like that starts to make a little bit more sense, because there's just a lot of steps and a lot of documentation that we're going to be asked to retain and report back on if somebody ever wants to see it and that. So I think we need some time with this. And I don't know, maybe Roxana, we're quite a ways into our capital program already for 2026. A lot of work has already been done. It may be that it wouldn't be till maybe early next year when we would have sufficient data and enough information to really talk about this again, but you know better than I.
Okay, that's good. So thank you for that conversation. We will look forward to some more information from staff, but we are going to move ahead because there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Very pointed question, quickly.
Yes. Just thank you very much, Chair. Just to say, the notice of motion I will bring forward, but not immediately. There needs to be a lot of work done.
Yep.
So I'll keep everyone informed and work with AMO and work with everyone, then bring it back, because I do think we need to make a formal complaint to Lisa.
I'm so sorry to do this. I was curious because you gave a date in May as when the decision will start, and I know AMO had recommended an extension on it, unless that is the extension through AMO. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are we at risk for any projects we plan for in 2026 that we hadn't had, like, that we have open procurement on that we'll have to change how we're approaching?
So through you, there would be, the majority, like the CIO mentioned, the majority of the construction and capital projects would have already been undertaken already. There will still be some projects that will fall under the new rules as of May 15th, which is this Friday. So anything new will fall under this, but we've already procured our fleet, so that's done. And the majority of the significant projects would have already been undertaken. So for that part, we're good.
Okay. Corporate services policies to be repealed. We need a mover and seconder. The council repeal policy GG 2.2 grant applications policy, and the council repeal policy GG 2.16 tax collection policy. Moved and seconded by Councillor Blackwell and Stewart. Any discussion? Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. I totally understand all of the decisions and recommendations to repeal these. One of the things I wanted to ask the director about was one of our strategic plan pillars was around alternative revenue sources. And I know we are doing a lot of grant applications, but could that be something that we add to the quarterly report so that we maybe have a line of sight on what kind of is going on, since we're no longer going to have a policy that governs that?
Through you, staff does track all of the grant applications that are submitted and the status of them, so it's not an issue if we can include that on future quarterly reports for council to review.
All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Council vacancy, committee vacancy. Need a mover and seconder that a couple of people be appointed, one as the council rep to the Accessibility Advisory Committee and another one to the Community Investment Grant Review Team. Now, I understand that Councillor Blackwell has offered her services as a member to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Is that still correct? Is there anyone else who would be interested in sitting on the Accessibility Advisory Committee? Everyone look at your shoelaces now, because that's, okay, so we will leave that name. Is there anyone that would be interested in sitting on the Community Investment Grant Review Team? Councillor Williams? Anyone else? No, he wants it. Okay, so we need a mover and seconder. The council appoint Councillor Blackwell as the representative to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and we appoint Councillor Williams to the Community Investment Grant Review Team, moved by Councillor Kavanaugh and Steinhoff Gray. Any more discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Designated Heritage Building Insurance. We need a mover and seconder. The council direct the mayor and clerk to send a letter to the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism regarding challenges related to insurance coverage for designated heritage properties, and to request that the Insurance Bureau of Canada adhere to the ministry's established guidelines for insuring heritage properties. Moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Hinchberger and Councillor Stewart. Do you want to speak to this before, or just questions? Are there any questions regarding this? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, the chair. If a property's designated as heritage, can the owner get that removed? I'm just worried about this. If this thing goes sideways and all of a sudden insurance goes way up, are they forced to still stay heritage, or can they ask the committee to be removed from the heritage? The owners, please.
Through you, Chair. Yes, they could ask for it to be removed. However, case law in the past has shown that there was a reason why council designated them. So there was a purpose for that. There was a purpose that they were designated. And unless that purpose for designation has changed, generally the courts have held that the designation stays. So if a person just wants to take the designation off, generally that has not been accepted. So it's tough now.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through your chair. Going down the hypothetical pathway that a letter achieves no change, does the framework of our community improvement plan allow for potentially in future years making up the difference in order to promote heritage, which is part of community improvement?
Clerk?
I'm not sure who wants
Manager? Evan, manager. Can we include, so would I. Can the CIP be so expansive as to include rebates of some sort or other for heritage buildings to accommodate increasing insurance costs for them?
So to my, through you. So through my understanding of the currently active CIP programs that we have, the closest one that we would have access to would be the building structural CIP program. Now
The question is, can we make them big enough to do that?
And yeah, of course. Like I would never not recommend increasing the growth of our CIP program.
Yeah, there could be some challenges. So the motion here is specifically that we send a letter to the Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism asking for this. Where it's not about us resolving the issue, even though it might come to that. So if you have a question about whether we should send the letter or not, that's good. You can ask that, and if not, we'll move on. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. So this is something that we've been talking about at the Heritage Committee, and part of the concern also is that it may not be impacting only designated properties, but any heritage home. And so it's something that's being discussed kind of across the province. The only comment that I would perhaps make is in the motion, it only references the mayor and the clerk. I think it would be appropriate for the chair of the Heritage Committee to be a signatory on that letter, if that's appropriate.
Would you like to make an amendment?
Yes, can I make it as a friendly amendment, please, that we add the chair of Heritage Kincardine to that letter?
Okay, so the motion has been changed. All in favor of the motion? Absolutely. And that's carried. Housing Ad Hoc Committee update. We need a mover and seconder. The council will receive this report for information and endorse the strategic priority areas identified by the Housing Ad Hoc Committee to inform the development of Housing Action Plan 2.0 and future recommendations, and that council direct staff to allocate funding as needed and up to a maximum of $25,000 from the Municipal Accommodation Tax budget allotment to support the work of the Housing Ad Hoc Committee in order to strengthen capacity and advance housing priorities through the remainder of the year. Moved by Councillors Stewart and Steinhoff-Gray. Manager, hello.
Through you, Mayor Craig. I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the report. That's before you, and this report really is to provide an update on the Housing Ad Hoc Committee's work following its first meeting on April 17th. They're moving fast and doing some concrete work. So the committee is seeking council's input on the proposed directions before moving forward. These priorities and actions in the report really represent an initial framework, and they'll continue to evolve as the committee receives input from stakeholders in the community at future meetings. They've already identified a list of groups and organizations and individuals they would like to speak with, to hear from, to help inform the work that's going forward. At the first ad hoc committee meeting, they reviewed several reports and data sets to help inform the discussions on priorities and actions. And the reports reviewed, they were all attached or included links in your report, as well as they're on the council SharePoint directory. If you want to move to the next slide, Nicole. So the committee also reviewed the 2025 Bruce County Housing Targets Report, and that was really a substantial report that explored housing types, tenures, forms, and prices. And so looking over that information, as well as the committee reviewed the current and future residential developments that have been initiated with the Municipality of Kincardines Planning and Development Services to see what was on the books and what was coming down in the future for development. And Amberly provided a list of all of that information, which the committee reviewed. So all of that information, if you go to the next slide, Nicole, this picture provided data and reports, but presented a mismatch between what exists and what's needed. And I think we all kind of know this in sort of anecdotally, but too many large homes, not enough small affordable units. And housing stock really being dominated by single detached homes, with limited rental and multi-unit options. And so this was something that, you know, the housing supply doesn't match what we currently need for the community. And in the data, it really showed the biggest need being single parent families, seniors, especially over 85, and single person households. And so, so after consideration of all of this information, the ad hoc committee identified some initial priorities and actions. And as I mentioned before, really looking for some input. This is not like firm in stone right now that, you know, things will shift as the committee reviews information, but really they want to hear a bit of an endorsement to move forward, which will help inform future work. And all of those priorities were found on page 5 to 7 of your report. And so I highlighted them in the next couple of slides, just to kind of really give an overview of some of the work. And so the big piece that sort of sets the stage is that the committee set a target, which was identified as the top priority. And their target was to deliver 160 below market rental and ownership units, which aligns with that Bruce County target report. And with the monthly housing cost to be between $1,088 to $1,740. So really getting narrow and specific around what it is to achieve. And how they came to those numbers, just, you know, I'm wondering how did they come to 160? The table that's in front of you there is from the Bruce County Target Report. And it shows that, you know, in the highlighted in blue, the below market rental and the ownership. And so those 110 renters plus 47 owners rounds up to 160 housing units. And so that's where that 160 target came from. And basically, the vision is to work together to provide 160 families with affordable housing. So that being sort of the overall vision. And then basically they looked at, and to achieve this vision, there's some initial priorities and actions that fall into 6 main buckets. And again, these buckets may shift as the work goes forward, but to give you an idea of the intentions there, the first is really to prioritize below market housing on private lands. And there were some examples that are under those bullets there to help us achieve that. And so, you know, one of the examples is leveraging and enhancing the incentives through the community improvement plan, updating our affordable housing reserve strategy, exploring developmental charge exemptions, considering loans or grants for acquisition of below market rental housing, and exploring strategic land acquisition opportunities. The next priority area was to prioritize municipal lands for housing. And so some of the potential actions under there were developing a municipal land strategy, establishing a prioritization framework, which which is kind of like the why and for what type of housing, preparing priority sites to be shovel ready, pursuing partnerships with nonprofits, county housing, and cooperatives. And so that if you move to the third priority area was really to establish a sustainable financial model. And so this was some actions to identify and pursue federal and provincial funding opportunities, which actually the committee has already asked speakers to come forward at some future meetings to hear about provincial and federal funding. Again, reviewing the Housing Reserve Fund. Oh, sorry, I think I'm on the same one. Number 3. Yeah, and nonprofits. So then going to the fourth area is looking at municipal policies and zoning. And so this is, again, looking at all of our zoning. And we've done a lot of work in this, but again, realigning some of our work to help with that missing middle on housing. So looking at some of those pieces of work. And then coming down to the last two, the fifth area is really to strengthen staff capacity and coordination. I think one of the areas is the senior planner, and this will help build capacity around that, which has already kind of gone forward. Establishing a housing dashboard to track approvals, timelines, and outcomes, and looking how we measure that, and making sure we have established cross-departmental coordination. And this has already been happening, but really consistently and putting it out there as an action. And then the sixth area is really to strengthen community readiness and support. And this is really about developing proactive communications on the needs and benefits of below market housing, engaging early on some of the key sites that may come up around surplus lands and doing a bit of communications around that, and clearly connecting housing initiatives to community outcomes. And so really trying to get some of that information out there and being proactive in that so that we get to yes in my backyard instead of no in my backyard. And so really those are, again, initial framework which will continue to evolve as the committee receives input from stakeholders in the community, and we'll continue with regular updates to council as the ad hoc committee kind of moves forward and develops some formal recommendations. So that's a bit of an overview of the work from one meeting of an ad hoc committee.
So I'm going to prioritize members who are not on the housing committee. So if you have questions, well, Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, through you. Just one quick question for the Director of Finance. How much did we have approved from the municipal accommodation tax budget in 2026? Was it 25,000 or is it? Yeah. Okay. And so just to follow up. So then the allocation of the 25,000 is just to advance some of the work this year. Okay.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Well done. Your target is perfect. Extremely well done, guys. That's the target we should be after, and I can't believe it after one meeting. I'm waiting for your second meeting to have the solution. But, putting 25,000, solution by second meeting, please. But 25,000 to move it, both of these things I can say go ahead and I can support it. It's going to be a challenge how we're going to do this, but we'll let the committee sort of work through that. You just might want to start to think about using some local businesses as partnerships too. But you got my permission to go ahead, and best of luck, and solution after second or third. Thank you.
So we have the motion in front of us to receive the report, endorse the priorities, allocate the funding. All in favor of the motion? Yep. And that's carried. Burvey Side Road surplus land update. We need a mover and seconder. The council directs staff to work with the purchaser and realtors to amend the purchase and sale agreement of the surplus property at 543 Burvey Side Road to extend the expiration of the agreement to June 30, 2026. That the legal description of the surplus property subject to the purchase and sale agreement be modified to reflect only the portion of land to be sold as per the survey and registered plan once those two instruments have been completed. That the condition for the purchaser to make an application for severance be removed from the purchase and sale agreement. That the mayor and clerk have authority to sign any amendments to the purchase and sale agreement. And that staff bring back a bylaw on a future agenda to declare the portion of land surplus, which will create the block of land as a separate parcel, enabling the agreement of purchase and sale to be executed. Moved by Councillors Prenger and Steinhoff-Gray. Questions, please. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'm just a little bit worried. I think we're finding out as we start to identify surplus properties that we sometimes need to do a little more work on them before we start to offer them to the public. I'm just worried about our policy, because we're actually going to create a new lot. And having a new lot, usually it goes to surplus. We have to declare it surplus, and then we have to present it and offer it to the public. So we're sort of breaking our own policy. Can we really do that within this policy? I know what you're trying to do, but would that be street legal with our policy that we're creating a new property and it should be actually out there to be offered to the public again?
Roxanne, Director, do you have an answer to that, or we did go to our planning specialist on council?
Sorry, I don't have the answer to that.
Councillor Prenger. Oh, just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah.
Through you, Chair. I believe the whole property was declared surplus. So carving off one section of it and saying that section is still surplus. So I think within our policy this will fit, and I see our planning specialist nodding her head. So,
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'll start actually by thanking two groups, or a group and an individual, the county for identifying the fact that the municipality should be doing the severance and not the proponent, and our CAO for bringing this forward in a timely manner and making sure it happens before getting too close to that due date, because it can be extended now and before it elapses. So this approach was actually the approach originally discussed between myself and the former CAO, and was originally, I think, believed by council to how it would happen, and it changed to the approach that was actually followed, and the county brought it up saying the municipality should be doing the severance. So it's come back around full circle. This property did go up for public sale. It was just the severance was just being handled a different way, and this turns out to be the most efficient way and the most proper way, and so we're reverting back to that most expeditious way. So I think I understand where Councillor Stewart's concerns were coming from, but perhaps that's simply because of a slight misunderstanding of exactly what is happening right now. So I actually think it's addressing, the way we're doing this is addressing your issue, your concern, actually.
All in favor of the motion? And that was carried. Number I is the Bruce Power Water Agreement update from our CIO. So this is Bruce Power stuff again. We okay, CAO, please.
I know. Right. Good evening, Council. The report that's before you, or actually the bylaw that's coming forward for your attention this evening, is an amending agreement to the original 2023 Water Service Agreement, which we enacted back in 2023 to supply potable water to the Bruce Power site. As Council will recall, in our earlier discussions, it was discovered during the planning for the upgrades to the system that the current intake capacity was insufficient to supply both the municipality of Kincardin's future needs, in addition to what Bruce Power believes their needs will be. So Council did provide direction to staff on a principled approach to creating an amending agreement. That's what's before you this evening. It outlines the terms under which the parties will undertake an expanded water supply intake. And as was directed previously, the intake works will follow the same phased approach as the original Water Services Agreement. It reflects this by integrating the intake structure into the existing Phase 3 and 4 of the Water Services Agreement. If you go to the next slide, overall, as Council directed, the Water Services Agreement, including this amendment, still involves a phased implementation, still involves a collaborative funding approach where the municipality and Bruce Power are both paying a share. Bruce Power continues to offer a prepayment to ensure that municipality of Kincardine is not out of pocket on the construction. There is future growth-related intake planning woven into this as we go through the steps. Like right now, we're about to start Phase 3 of the project, which is the environmental assessment and the early design work. This will give us more information about how to properly apportion the requirements and therefore the costs of the future intake work. And the revised agreement continues to contemplate a grant funding offsets, and should we be successful in obtaining a grant, that grant would reduce the cost of the overall project to the benefit of both parties. Just for clarity there, you'll notice that in the amending agreement, if you took a look at that, the definition of water treatment plant includes the intake structure, while the Kincardine water treatment plant is the original definition that doesn't include the intake. So when you see the terminology change in the agreement, that's the reason why. A couple of things to note that are new in the amending agreement. The design for the intake work and the environmental assessment, we're going to share those costs 50-50 rather than the 57-43, which is what's being done for the earlier work. Because right now it's not clear, we're not able to determine exactly who will benefit by how much on the intake work, so we're just going to share those costs. And then future proportionate shares for the intake project will be determined based on the needs of each party after the design is completed and prior to tendering for construction. Again, council will recall that the construction for the intake may be many years in the future, but we know that we need to have the design done now and to be ready again for those grant capabilities. But again, just to be ready, to be prudent in case there are material changes in requirements, we'll be ready to move a project forward if the water is required. So I think financially, the aspects of the agreement that are most pertinent, I think, for tonight, the agreement allows any unused Bruce Power contribution from the first part of the project to be carried over onto the intake parts of the project that will occur in the future. And just as a reminder, we've talked about this before, Kincardine's share of the intake is growth related and will be included as a project in the new DC background study that's under development. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'm a little bit confused. Help me out here. This agreement's only to do with the intake. I mean, because I'm a little bit confused. We're talking intake, we're talking water treatment plant, we're talking phase 1. They're about ready to do a class 2 estimate for phase 2. How's that project working? What is the cost for that one? How much money have we put in already under phase 1? And then all of a sudden we're getting $8 million plus. Is that for the intake or is that for the phase? I mean, you know, one of the problems is we're going like this, you know, and then they start talking about intake taking 10 years. Yes, I agree, you have to do an EA because, you know, you're dealing with the federal government when you're dealing with the water like you're on. I'm just a little bit confused because we seem to get the cart before the horse. I'd really like to hold off on this until we see the cost estimates for phase 2 because they have an off-ramp. So they could take the off-ramp and say they're not even bothered with the expansion, and does this disappear, this $8 million? I mean, you know, we're really sort of jumping ahead where we're supposed to get the cost to phase 2 by the end of June. So we could delay this whole motion until July.
If I may, what's before you now is an amending agreement that really covers the entirety of our discussions with Bruce Power and our obligations with them. It's my understanding that they are ready to tender the phase 2 work with the pipeline and the changes to the Kincardine water treatment plant. So that work is imminent. And then this would be phase 3 that we would start in very shortly, which is the actual construction as well as the planning that's noted here with the EA and design work for that. Thank you.
So we don't really know what our cost is going to be for phase 2 of the increase or the expansion of the water treatment plant. Like the finances, We did this okay in '23.
Can, I believe, now, I'm sorry that Adam isn't here this evening, but I believe that we do have a current estimate for the work that is to happen, that's going to tender, and I believe that is, I want to say 7.2. And then, so there is an estimate for the work for the water treatment plant. There is a firm number, which is the Bruce Power buy-in contribution, also noted in the document. So that's an agreed on number because it's based on the cost of our development charges rate and the volume of water that they require. So that those numbers haven't changed.
Follow up, because you're going to have a $7 million for phase 2, and are they covering the cost right now? Because, we have to pay the 43%, and are we planning to put that in the water user budget? I'm a little bit confused. I would like the finances to be a little more explained before I sort of approve this amendment.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm going to try to give this a go. So before we knew about the intake problems, we had a water supply agreement. Now we have the intake problems, and we needed to amend the water supply agreement. This bylaw here, or this agreement, is only showing those amendments. What really I think we would all benefit from is seeing the consolidated agreement. And is that, I'm going to ask the clerk whether that's a normal course. Will we be able to see the whole package? Because I think this is what, is it? There's, oh, there's two attachments in there. One is the presentation, the second is the amendment. So that we'll need the full agreement? Okay. Oh. Okay, but that's what I think what, it would help to, you want to see the full picture, which is this amending agreement plus the much larger. Okay. Okay.
I apologize if I've, somehow misinterpreted things. It was my understanding that the water services agreement is of long standing, right? We've had that agreement in place since 2023. So am I hearing that council is wishing to kind of reconsider the whole water services agreement? Because what this before you is, I haven't changed, and I hope I made that clear in my presentation. I have not changed anything in the original agreement. What's before you this evening and what you're asked to consider is simply the amendments to the agreement, which are very specific to the new water intake work, which was not contemplated in the original water services agreement because we didn't know we needed it at that time. So now we do. Now we will go forward. We will find out how much the intake work will cost. For right now, we're going to share the costs of the finding out part and the environmental assessment 50-50 with Bruce Power. And then as we proceed and get more information, then we'll have more fulsome estimates of the cost of that intake work and how those costs will be apportioned. But that time could be very well, as I indicated, some years in the future.
Yep, so as the agenda says, there is no decision point tonight. Like we're not.
You need to, the
bylaw. The bylaw's coming,
Yeah.
but in this one, so the, Councillor Kavanaugh, go ahead.
Thank you very much, and through the chair. Well, I appreciate my colleague's opinion of wanting a more fulsome and detailed A and B comparison before making a decision here. At the end of the day, this is something that we know we need to do in terms of providing water to our community and going forward. the prospect of growth and development is happening, and an intake replacement will have to happen, even if either party chooses to take an off ramp sometime in the future down the road. It's still mutually beneficial, and beneficial for our residents in particular, to have someone else helping subsidize some of the cost or splitting that cost of the development and finding out as we go forward. So for that, I'm in favor of the agreement.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. I didn't intend to add to Councillor Kavanaugh's, but the one thing I liked most in the presentation was the very last bullet, which is kind of the first time that I ever, I think, saw for certain that our share of the work on the intake structure is considered growth, will be included in the upcoming development charges background study and included in going forward, and therefore it's something that's going to be paid for by growth.
It is one of those things, it is inevitably going to be needed.
Yeah.
And if we can do it in partnership rather than granting opportunities that don't happen or by ourselves, that is not an appealing option to myself. CAO, please, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor Stewart.
And also just to remind council that the agreement, the amending agreement that's before you tonight was based on the direction that was provided to staff in closed session at the end of January. So I have not, except for the 50-50 split on the costs of the design work, that's the only deviation, I think, from that, from the direction that we discussed at the end of January.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. My concern is financial. You know, this might be a necessity and everything, but you know, we have put a lot of pressure on our water users recently with the Tiverton that, you know, the water use rates are getting very up. I mean, we're almost $1,600 between water and usage. Our average rents or property taxes are only 27. You know, you add these kind of costs, you're going to be well over $2,000 for water use. It'll be easy. I'm just trying to understand exactly as we walk through this to really see the financial impact to us, the taxpayers, on this whole project. I mean, I know phase 2 is out for quote. It might come back as a lot higher than it is in what we thought. You know, you don't really know until we actually get the quotes back. And then all of a sudden I'm reading this thing and I'm going, number 3, for the physical facilities, they are secondary booster pumping stations. Well, where did that come from? I thought there was only one pumping station that Bruce Power is actually going to supply and actually build. But, you know, when I start reading this, and really what I'm afraid of is that all of a sudden we're going through a project like this with Bruce Power, and all of a sudden out of the air comes, oh, by the way, we don't have enough intake capacity. You know, that was a little bit of a surprise. Last term, when we were doing basically the sewer line, the main force sewer line, what happened was, and I think that Roxanne will tell us, that all of a sudden we needed another pumping station at $3 to $5 million. So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to get the financial picture as clear as possible so we really do understand the impact. I mean, it's great to say it's fine, but you know, the money comes from the taxpayers and the water users. So I'm just trying to understand the full picture, and why is there such a necessary position right now to approve this that we can wait until phase 2 and really see what the costs are going to be, because there could be an off-ramp. And if there is an off-ramp, I don't think Bruce Power is going to help us with the intake. Because if they decide to walk away from the expansion, they won't be helping us with the intake. Now, it'd be nice to see the provincial government helping us for a change. And you know, to be honest with you, I'm a little bit ticked. Just north of us, we basically had a waste site that needed to be refunctioned up in Southampton for 19 million. The government came in there with 18 million grant. You know, so we're helping Bruce Power and Bruce C, and you know, but we're taking the burden along with Bruce. The taxpayers and the water users, this is going to be a heavy, heavy load. So we do need to be careful, and we just can't rush this. I'm sorry. I like to see full financial picture and wait until we get the phase 2 quotes in.
Further question? Okay. Oh, Director, yes, please.
So through you, I did want to just remind council that the Kincardine Water Treatment Plant upgrades and the expansion that are required to accommodate Bruce Power were included in the 2026 budget, with the funding sources identified to be the Water Reserve Fund for the municipal portion and then the contribution from Bruce Power. So like this is to the CAO's point, the existing project is already in the budget. It's just the intake that had to be contemplated, which was the purpose of the amending agreement.
Yep, and we're aware of that it is an amending agreement, absolutely. Okay. All right, Bill, can you invite our councillors back in again, please? Thank you. Okay, we have notice of motion here prior to the meeting. It's moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Hinchberger and Councillor Blackwell. That Council amend the 2026 capital budget to bring forward Project 1093 Bruce Ave Penetangor Road intersection improvements at a budget estimate of $70,000 funded from development charges, roads and related, and the life cycle reserve. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through your chair. Just a little backstory for this. The work on this originally began in early part of 2025 with a service request put in by members of the public. Concerns about the visibility at the Bruce Avenue and Penetangor Road intersection, particularly for northbound traffic having to look down the hill and assess whether it's safe to transit through or to make a right-hand turn. So staff last year, they did some exploratory work on the hillside there. There was a period of time you could tell that utility locates were done. And as we got into the fall, I was keeping abreast of this, and it looked like it was going to be done under the operating budget. It turned out that assessing the scope of the work found out that the nature of it and the price tag was such that it had grown into the capital area. An oversight on my part in the budget process, not knowing that this was actually happening, didn't realize that it had become a capital project. By the time the 2025 budget was produced, it wasn't in the package or in the 5-year capital plan. So in the spring, when I followed up on what was going to be done, I found out the certain circumstances. So the request here is to bring this forward. A couple of facts. The $70,000, $15,000 to $20,000 of that is for the utility relocates. The remaining, according to Director Weiser, is $50,000 range, maximum for the wall itself, and this is what will become capitalized. In the Ontario Traffic Manual, if this was if this was a level intersection with approaches essentially at the same grade level, based on some traffic monitoring, et cetera, it would meet several of the warrants in the Ontario Traffic Manual, Book 5, to be an all-way stop. But the major override is the fact that that same manual also says you don't put a stop sign in an all-way stop situation when it requires a vehicle to stop on grade. It actually has in there warrants or guidelines related to visibility, and it's my position that we have not done what we could be reasonably perceived to do in order to make the visibility as good as it can be at that intersection, given the terrain limitations. So my ask is that you support advancing this work. I think one other thing, as Councillor Blackwell raised her hand, I don't know if this was what she's going to say or not, but in discussions with Director Weiser as well, this was identified that this would have little impact on the operations work program for 2026 and would not affect expected completion of any other work on their part. Thanks.
Councillor Blackwell?
Thank you, through you. He stole my thunder. So no, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think this is a beneficial project, and I'm happy to support.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'd just like to say that while I understood the concerns, I wasn't convinced at first that this justified the cost. And I'd like to thank Councillor Hinchberger for diving pretty deep and getting me some pretty detailed data to help me better understand the situation. And I'm now willing to support this and happy to.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, thank you very much. It was a great email you sent us, and thank you very much for getting over there, because I decided to go over there too and count the cars, and I tried it a few times, and you're absolutely right. The sight line's not there. It really is quite serious. Even the stop sign is too far back. The stop sign should be closer to the intersection with the white line and everything. But even in my, I did it in my truck and I did it in a car, you only can see half the yellow sign. So it does need to be. I'm just trying to ask the question. You're talking about a wall. Could the bank be shaved off anymore? I mean, you really need to shave it quite a bit to get the proper sight lines, but do you have to build the wall?
So if I may, please, I'm going to just jump in here a little touch, because we're not the professional engineers that determine whether we could or should or not. And I'm wondering, and it's not that I'm, once again, I'm not passionate one way or the other. If you want to do it, that's fine. But I'm wondering if council would receive a recommendation that we refer it for a staff report, that because if there are design things that you are interested in, that's what we should do. And there's always the question of, this is a great project, but does it fit into something bigger? Like I don't know what it means. So I'm wondering if this is an opportunity where staff has, because we haven't seen, like we've heard snippets and bits and pieces here and there, but we haven't seen that. So I'm not sure whether we should refer this to council, and I will leave that up to one of you to make that recommendation if you so choose.
Well, I personally will not withdraw it. Both myself and Councillor Blackwell have had extensive discussions with Director Reiser about this. None of them were about us attempting to be amateur designers. Literally, the information I'm giving you was provided by Adam, and essentially what you're going to envision, nature of the work that's going to be done, I'm envisioning you're going to see the wall cut back enough in order to do the job, which will require precast retaining block walls of the type that you can look and see on the way heading up to the hospital with the Mount Forest Avenue work, or that was done on Kincardine Avenue west of Huron Terrace, or Penetangor by then.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, it's my understanding Director Weiser is not on the call tonight. Is that correct? Okay. I'll just say as well, this is something that there's been quite a bit of discussion with staff. They had already identified it as a potential project for the budget. So I think given the information that we have, given the support, unfortunately now I feel bad that I didn't circulate an email that I received from Director Weiser indicating that this would fit within their operational work plan, that it wouldn't have an impact, and that it was a project that they had already identified. So I think more than anything, it's just bringing the project to the forefront and prioritizing it within, recognizing that it won't have an impact as opposed to other potential intersection improvements. So it's not necessarily something that I feel that we need more detail from on staff, because, and I say that as someone who's had discussions about this, but I think it's generally just saying this is one that we've identified as being a priority, and one that we want to direct staff to do now instead of waiting for the next budget cycle.
I didn't suggest it would take another budget cycle. That's not the intent at all. So no, I'm going to go to the CAO here, please. You did? Okay. Okay. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I can support this project, but you're right. I mean, I don't know if this was the original plan in the original design when we turned down that budget item, but I don't really see. but it never came forward. But I don't see a problem sending it back to, you know, the staff to come back with a report telling exactly what they're going to do. And, you know, it sounds like all the necessary work's been done, so we could probably see that next meeting.
My challenge then would be to, why wait?
From a procedural perspective, if, like, there has been no staff report on it. Like, there was an email chain, and there was conversations with councillors and staff, and there was the suggestion that it was supposed to be on, but all I'm asking for is an opinion from our staff member at the first meeting in June that says, this is what it looks like, this is the cost, West Stereo's in line, the locates are fine, it's not doing anything. It certainly supports decision-making process, that's all. And if council wants to do that, that's fine. If they don't want to do it, they can, you know, that's your right as well. So, Councillor Pranger, you had a question?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I guess I'm just curious, when it was intended to be done through the operating budget, how much was it estimated to cost then? Like, what's the difference that we're now approving? Do we know?
No, I don't think so.
Just the,
We don't know the answer to that question.
okay, because to me, that's the only difference here. It was going to move ahead as part of their plans. It was a project they had identified, and they were going to do it through the operating budget, so it was going ahead. But they just need extra money, and now our approval to take that and added extra money to the capital budget so they can do it. So it's not a change in work plan or approach. It's simply a budget shift, an increase to our budget, and we need to sort of approve that or not.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that council amend the 2026 capital budget to bring forward project regarding Bruce Ave and Penetangor Road. Estimate of 70,000 funded from DC and Life Cycle. All in favor? And that's carried. Better Regional Governance Act motion. It was moved by myself, seconded by nobody at this point, but I'll leave that open. Seconded by Councillor Blackwell. The Council of the Municipality of Kincardine supports the correspondence and request from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus to the province to request that any changes involving upper-tier municipalities maintain locally elected leadership as a cornerstone of municipal governance, recognize the distinct roles and structures of counties, regions, and municipalities, reflect rural and regional realities, including geography and service delivery responsibilities, and be developed in partnership with municipalities through meaningful consultation. Further, the Municipality of Kincardine Council formally requests that the province amend Bill 100 to allow Bruce County Council to retain the authority to appoint its own warden, chair, and further that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, local members of Provincial Parliament, Bruce County Council, and all lower tier municipalities within Bruce County. Discussion? Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you, just for some clarification, when you specifically mentioned Bruce County in the motion, has that been identified as one already? I know that there's been several, Niagara, Simcoe, Durham. Has it been identified that it's going to have an appointed warden?
Don't know that for sure. It is preemptive. Go ahead.
No, I'll just say that this is something that is extra concerning. I know that we have spoken out, or maybe I should say I have spoken out against some of the strong mayor powers. Having an appointed warden with strong chair powers is even more alarming than an elected strong mayor. It's just something that I struggle with from a entire democratic structure, and so it's something that I think we should certainly be raising red flags about.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Consideration of bylaws. We need a mover and seconder that the long-term borrowing debenture bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed number to bylaw number 2026-049. Moved by Councillors Stewart and Kavanaugh. Any discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I must admit, the Treasurer and I had a discussion about this. And when we went through all the options, we looked at a lot of the options, and this was the best option and the lowest cost for us. So just wanted to tell you that this wasn't the one, but this is the best option for us.
All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Bruce Power Water Supply Agreement Amendment. We need a mover and seconder that the Bruce Power Water Supply Agreement Amendment bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, third time. Finally pass the number to bylaw 2026-050. Moved by. I like that. Recorded vote on that. Moved by Councillors Kavanaugh and Hinchberger, and recorded vote, please.
Stewart?
No. Sorry. No.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Hinchberger?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes.
And that passes.
Okay, we move on to the maintenance repair. I offer it over to our Deputy Mayor to run this resolution through.
If I could. I'd like to get a mover and a seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of May 2026. Number 1, Caldwell Municipal Drain Maintenance Bylaw 2026-051. Number 2, Norman MacArthur Drain Maintenance Bylaw 2026-052. Number 3, Russell Municipal Drain Main Drain Cleanout Bylaw 2026-053. Number 4, Russell Municipal Drain Main Drain Waterway Bylaw 2026-054. Number 5, Russell Municipal Drain Branch A Cleanout Bylaw 2026-055. Number 6, Russell Municipal Drain Branch A Tile Repair Bylaw 2026-056. And number 7, Russell Municipal Drain Branch F Tile Repair Bylaw 2026-057. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, that's right. Hey, it's a rookie mistake. Moved by Councillor Blackwell, seconded by Councillor Stewart. All in favor? Second time around. And that's carried.
Okay, so we're going to split apart the next resolution. So we need a mover and seconder that the following bylaw is read first, second, third time, finally passed 13th is Bruce Power Capacity Funding Agreement 2026-058, moved by Councillors Kavanaugh and Deputy Mayor Hinchberger. All in favor? And that's carried. Now we need a mover and seconder that the following bylaw, the Council Committee Appointment Amendment Bylaw 2026-059, finally passed, moved by Councillors Prenger and Blackwell. All in favor? And that's carried. We move into the consent agenda, approved in one motion, unless you would like to withdraw one for conversation this evening or a subsequent meeting. Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I'd like to draw attention to 8.1 Alpha Alpha, which is the 2026 Peer Safety Report Annual Update from our parks. fantastic report, a good measure of accountability, but I was wondering with the council's blessing, I could bring it back on June 10th, where hopefully the final element of the ladders will have been completed and we can have a more fulsome discussion with the public then.
Okay, CAO? Yep, okay. Anything else from any of the councillors? Once again, to our Director of Corporate Services, thank you for your variance report. That was helpful. There's a lot of seasonality in that report, but that's the nature of any business. Welcome to Bruce County. So we need a mover and seconder of the council to approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated May 13, 2026, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Steinhoff Gray, all in favor. That's carried. Member of Council, general announcements. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you through you. Fine, I'm being limited to one. I'll just say that it's the upcoming long weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited for our seasonal washrooms to be open and to head uptown and get a little taste of summer, hoping the weather starts to feel that way soon. So, yeah.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Excuse me. I'd just like to thank the Kincardine Lions for recently doing their spring roadside cleanup. I used to love helping with that. Unfortunately, in the past several years, I haven't had an opportunity to participate, but they do a great job every year. But I'd also like to recognize a lot of individual residents who do it on their own, including one of my neighbors. It's great to see them out there. I love the idea of taking my kids. We do a walk every once in a while around the neighborhood, but I have neighbors who do it literally daily, and it's wonderful to have them around. So all the people who participate in that type of thing, thank you.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, and through you, I have two things. The Multicultural Festival last night was a success and it was delicious. So congratulations to staff and everyone who participated. I think the public really enjoyed it, so well done. And the other thing I'd just like to talk about is that Tiverton had their annual garage sale, and it was very successful. Thank you for the community. But the really good news was that the donation center, the Goodwill Donation Center, took everything except for 4 bags of garbage. That's the first time. So we only submitted 4 bags of garbage to the landfill and that Goodwill Center. So a shout out to them. They took everything else. So well done.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'd just like to highlight for folks that want to participate, it's World Fiddle Day in Kincardine on Saturday. It's going to be at the Walker House from 2 to 6. I will be there playing tunes, as will the family. So not that I'm saying you want to listen to me. I hate playing in public. But I am saying that it is a wonderful event.
I might just come and see that.
I'm sorry, what time is that, Amanda?
2 to 6 at the Walker House.
And what time are you playing?
I'd rather not, but I know that Cousin Deb will be primed and ready.
Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you very much. From May 4th to June 24th, in affiliation with Kincardine Pride, there was an art show going on at Grey Matter Brewery. So I encourage everyone to stop by and take a look at what's going on there. And I'll just reiterate that we're going into our long weekend, which is exciting. Monday will be our first market in the park, which I know everyone looks forward. We're all hoping for good weather. And as Councillor Blackwell mentioned, but I'd have to repeat it loud and proud, Kincardine's taste of summer. We've had a horribly cold and wet spring, so I think we're really, everyone's hungry for a taste of summer.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, through your chair. One of the things I really enjoy is watching things get built. And one of the things is watching the Station Beach Boardwalk be constructed right now, and the work that's being done on that is giving me a lot of pleasure. And my wife and I, we walk the dog regularly down there, and I think without exception, the people that we've come across are very pleased with what they see so far. So.
And as for me, in regards to the boardwalk, I agree 100%. I had a picture in my head what it was going to look like in my head, and what it looks like isn't. That looks far better than what my head said it was going to. So that's good. the patio season once again this weekend. I get to start the patio crawl at Daily Grind at 12 o'clock on Sunday. It's exciting. Chad mentioned the Bruce C. Impact meeting May 19th at the Pavilion from 4 to 6. Those are valuable opportunities to learn more about what might be happening in our community. CAO, nothing for you? Okay. We need a mover and seconder. The council move into closed session pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering the closed session minutes dated April 22, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, specifically Gary Street Development Upgrade. Position plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, specifically the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities and Nuclear Strategy, and the council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by Councillor Black